So I got a call, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, from a friend of mine at Harvard. And he said, "You're going to China?" And I said, "Yeah, how do you know?" And he said, "Because the Chinese government just called me." Now, why would they do that? Because Beijing puts a lot of people in the Kennedy School at Harvard, where I received a master's degree. And they do a lot of business, China, with Harvard. Very prestigious for a Chinese government official to attend Harvard University. So they keep an eye on things, and they knew that I was an alumni. Now, how did they know I was going to China? Because I made a reservation at the Four Seasons Hotel across an American embassy, and everybody who's from America that goes in there, the Chinese government knows within 2 hours. Isn't that interesting? China is the most intense surveillance state this world has ever seen, by far. And I document that in my column. And again, I hope you read it. So anyway, the offer was we would like Mr. O'Reilly to come to Beijing to do a seminar, a question and answer with some Chinese government officials who are very worried about the second Trump administration. So I said, okay, because that's my job, right? My job is to look out for you by being a journalist and assembling facts, and also to look out for my country. So I'm going in. And I did. It worked out great. The Chinese are very, very respectful to me. And the rules were simple. Everything was off the record in the sense that no quotations and no names mentioned except mine, which is all right with me. They videotaped the entire, it was close to 2 hours. But if they use it, any of it, then I get to use it too. That's the deal we have. And I do believe they will adhere to that deal. The reason they taped it was there were even bigger shots watching this on closed circuit. Okay. Now, when I go in, I tell the truth, but I was not as bellicose as I can be. And I told them I wouldn't be. I said, I'm not here to debate you on policy. That's not what I'm here to do. You want to know something about the USA or President Trump, I will answer your question. If I don't know the answer, I will tell you, but I'm not debating. So tariffs and all that, not my job to debate. My job is to tell you what's happening in America, which I did. They accepted that. And they asked good questions. But it took a turn when I said, I have a proposal for you, which I've been working on for a while, and it's called the Partnership for Peace and Prosperity between the United States and China. And I laid it out, and they were stunned. I said, if the United States and China were to ally together and control the crazies of the world, Iran, Putin, other insane things, North Korea, if we were to establish an economic partnership that led to stability, that would be an unbelievable thing. Now, most Americans do not know that China and the United States is the most important story by far in the world. You mention China, their eyes glaze over, they don't pay attention, they want to hear about Puff Daddy, they don't know. This is by far the most important story for you, because what happens with the United States and China will influence how much money you get and how much money you will keep. And it is a life and death situation. Again, it is not my job to make policy for the Trump administration, but I laid out a pathway where both countries could work together. I did inform President Trump I was going, and yesterday I debriefed him for 30 minutes on the telephone. That was off the record. I cannot tell you what I said, but he got pretty much everything you're going to get, okay, including the columns. And the president listened very intently and asked very good questions, which he always does when I talk to him. And I'm not patronizing anybody. I'm telling you the truth. Anyway, by far the most important thing to the Chinese government is Taiwan, not the tariffs, and not the day-to-day, you violated this, you can't have Chinese students, this is that. Nah, all of that can be taken care of. Taiwan is the big one. And I basically said, after they came at me with Taiwan, I said, look, the United States government under President Trump is not going to let you invade Taiwan and take it over without a brutal, and I mean that literally, a brutal reprisal. Donald Trump does not want to look like a weakling. He doesn't want to look like President Biden. And this was interesting. The Chinese government had no use for Biden at all, calling him weak and unfocused. No use. They're happy Trump's in there because they think they might be able to get some deals out of this. Now, when I was driving around China, because we went up to the Great Wall, and all the pictures are on BillO'Reilly.com, I didn't see one American car. My son saw a couple. I didn't see any in Japan. I didn't see any in South Korea. So that whole tariff thing is real. There's no cars for Americans in there. And China's 1.5 billion people, 5 times our population. Now, I'm going to read you some questions coming up. A lot of people don't understand why the Chinese people allow this surveillance communist state, because they have never for one day known freedom. In their entire history, China has never known a day of freedom. It's exactly the same thing in the Revolutionary War, and 50% of the colonists, the Americans, supported the king. It drove George Washington crazy. And John Hancock and Samuel Adams, they couldn't get the Tories, they were called, to support the revolution, because those people never knew a day of freedom. They were under the king in England. They come over here. I got freedom. What's freedom? In Beijing, the concept is just, why? They don't have a free press. They don't see every single thing is controlled. When you are born in China, you get an ID card. Okay? You have to carry the ID card in your diaper. Okay? If you don't have it and the authorities stop you, you're arrested. Every Chinese has to carry an ID card every second of every day. And that's just the start of it. They confiscated 2 of my pens for no reason. Woman was about 22, goes, I'm taking your pens. In Chinese, I had a translator. I said, why? I'm a journalist. What am I going to write with? Took the pen for no reason. And I'm that small ball, but just give you an idea. So anyway, on the Taiwan thing, I said, this can be worked out. The year 2049 is the 100th anniversary of Mao Zedong's takeover, communist takeover. That's when the government wants Taiwan in the fold, but they're going to have to carve out autonomy for Taiwan for the West to go along with it. It's doable. Hard. Very hard. Tariffs are hard. All of this is hard. Okay, so I got a bunch of mail. Richard, Chinese government not trustworthy. Okay. They've been lying, cheating, and stealing for decades. I find it interesting that you would propose a deal that would allow them to jointly police the world. Your proposal sounds a lot like a one world government laid out in the book of Revelations. Okay, look, Richard, if you want to be a pinhead and say, we're not dealing with the Chinese because we don't trust them, then you're going to have World War III. Coming, get ready, get your food, get your bunker. Barry, Taiwan will make or break point of closure cooperation between China and USA. Their enthusiastic response for you when you said a closer partnership may be necessary was a good sign. I live in Saipan. That's Japan territory. Barry, I don't know if they were enthusiastic about me, but they weren't bored. They listened. Nancy, California. During your recent trip to China, you spoke with the heads of the Chinese Communist Party in an effort to obtain a close relationship with the U.S. You stated the Chinese wanted most was the annexation of Taiwan, which is a free country. Are you willing to sell out Taiwan? I'm not selling out anybody. I'm trying to get an arrangement. I'm trying to avert World War III. That's what I'm trying to do. Arrangement could be made. Andrea Malcuso, Carrollton, Texas. Regarding your off-the-record trip to China, are you allowed to discuss the Q&A with President Trump? No. I don't. When I talk to the president, this, I said this is off the record. This was off the record. Now, the Chinese knew I was talking to Trump because I told them that up top. I tell everybody up front. They knew. I said, what happens here is going back to him. Richard, I thank God every day I was born in the USA, greatest country. Fortunately, a politician and radical activist in the country would love to have totalitarianism. China is not the only country guilty of this oppression. True, but it's way beyond anything. I was in Spain when Franco was there, been to Cuba, Romania when the Soviets ran it. Not close. One more. Lisa. Far left could learn a thing or two about the brutal communists as far as social order goes. Yeah, and San Francisco was big. I wrote about that in the message of the day on BillO'Reilly.com. They're appalled. They go, what is this? Because they all have relatives living in San Francisco. I go, this is progressivism. This is what happens. Okay. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on X. Look for @Bill O'Reilly.